Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, The A2ist. This is our fourth video on the topic voice change, and today we are going to learn the voice change of interrogative sentences. Now have a look what are the topics that we are going to discuss today. Number 1, what the interrogative sentences are and their types. Next, we are going to see a step-by-step conversion of the interrogative sentences from active to passive voice. And finally, we are going to see the voice conversion of the interrogative sentences at a single step. Now, let's see what the interrogative sentences are. The interrogative sentences are those that ask questions such as, what is your name? Are you well? Do you go to school every day? Who is there? Etc. Now, the interrogative sentences are of two types. One is a simple question and the other is a WH question. Now, let's see what are the simple questions. Have a look at the examples. Example 1, do you take tea? Example 2, do you not like sports? Next one, is Robert your friend? Next one, are you well? Next one, have you a car or do you have a car? Next, have you not done this? Next, will you come tomorrow? And finally, can he do it? Note, these question sentences are called simple questions, and now have a look at their features. Number 1, these all question sentences start with the auxiliary verbs. And number 2, they can be answered in yes or no. Now, in this regard, you must remember the types of the auxiliary verbs. So, have a look. The auxiliary verbs are mainly of two types. Number 1, a principal auxiliary, and number 2, the modal auxiliaries. Now there are three types of principal auxiliaries: the do verbs, the be verbs, and the have verbs, and in the brackets all the 5 forms of these verbs are given for your convenience. Now have a look at the modal auxiliaries, their forms in present and past. See, can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, must, ought, dare. The past form of it is does. You can write dared. Now need and used to. Now let's see what are the WH questions. Have a look at the examples. What is your name? When will you go? How did you do it? Where do you live? Who is working there? Etc. Now have a look at the features. These question sentences all start with a WH word. Now they cannot be answered in yes or no. Rather, they need some specific information to answer. These are called the WH questions. Now we will see how to convert these question sentences from active to passive, but before we start, have a look at the structure of verbs. See, a simple verb equals to do plus verb. A verb plus s or es construction equals to does plus verb. A verb in its past tense equals to did plus verb. Now take an example to understand it better. We have taken the verb play. Now see, play equals to do plus play. I said verb equals to do plus verb, so play equals to do plus play. Now plays, the verb plus s or es construction equals to does plus verb. Now plays equals to does plus play. And finally, the past form of play is played, so played equals to did plus play. See, now this is going to be very important ahead while learning voice change of interrogative sentences. Note, the interrogative sentences can be converted from active to passive in two ways. Number 1, a step-by-step process, and number 2, a direct process. In a step-by-step process, first we are given an interrogative sentence to make it passive. Now convert this into an assertive one, then convert it into passive, and finally convert the passive sentence into an interrogative one. Now the entire process is done. Now let's see how to change the interrogative sentences from active to passive following the step-by-step process. Now take the example, are you reading a newspaper? Here see, the subject is you, the auxiliary verb is are, the main verb is reading, and the object is a newspaper. So first we will convert this sentence into an assertive sentence, and we know the sentence construction of an assertive is SVO. So in assertive the sentence is you are reading a newspaper. Now we will convert the sentence into passive. See, a newspaper is being read by you. Next point, finally, we will convert it into a question sentence, and to do so, just pick the auxiliary is and place it before the subject in the sentence, a newspaper. So the answer is a newspaper being read by you? Now note, this is the process how we can convert the interrogative sentences from active to passive most comprehensively, and it is perhaps the best process to start with for the beginners. Now let's take some other examples. Example 2, do you play cricket? This is an interrogative sentence, and first we will convert it into assertive. So, you play cricket. Now, this is an example of a present indefinite tense. Next, we will convert it into passive. So, cricket is played by you. And the final step, we will convert this passive voice into a question sentence. So, we will pick up the auxiliary is and place it before the subject. So, the answer is cricket played by you? Now, have a look at the next example. Have you a car? Or do you have a car? Now, make it an assertive. You have a car. Next, make it a passive. A car is possessed by you. And finally, make it a question sentence as is a car possessed by you? Now, take the note. In this sentence, the verb to have is the main verb, and it means to possess or to own. In such cases, we will use the verb possess to make it a passive one. Now the next example, he has killed a snake. So turn it into assertive. First comes the subject, he, then the auxiliary and the main verb together, has killed, and finally the object, a snake. Next, make it passive. A snake has been killed by him. And now, make it a question sentence. Pick the auxiliary has and place it before the subject. Now the answer is, has a snake been killed by you? And now the final example, has Ram bought the books? Make it assertive. Ram has bought the books. Make it passive. The books have been bought by Ram. And finally, make it a question. Have the books been bought by Ram? Now have a look at the note here. In this example, the auxiliary has in the active voice changes into have in the passive voice. It is because in the active voice, the subject is Ram. It is a third person and singular in number. But in the passive voice, the subject changes to the books, and it is a third person and plural in number. Now have a look at the next example. Can you do it? Make it into assertive. You can do it. Now make it passive. It can be done by you. Now make it a question. Can it be done by you? Now let's see how we can convert these interrogative sentences from active to passive at a single step. So take the same examples. Number 1. Is he reading a newspaper? Now you need to extract these things first in column active voice and in column passive voice. See, column active voice, here the subject is he, the object is a book, it is a third person and singular number, and the verb is reading. And we know in passive the subject will be a book, and in object he will change into him, and in verb it will be is being read. Now, so the answer is a newspaper being read by him? How? Have a look. So in passive voice, first comes the auxiliary is, then comes the subject a book, and then the rest of the verb being read, then a by, and finally the object him. Is it okay? Now take some other examples. See, do you play cricket? Now have a look at the columns. In active voice column, the subject is you, the object is cricket, and the verb is do plus play equals to play. Now have a look at the passive voice column. Here the subject is a cricket, the object is you, and the verb is played. So the answer is cricket played by you? In the next example, have you a car? Is a car possessed by you? Now, has he killed a snake? The answer is, has a snake been killed by him? And the final example, can you do it? The answer is, can it be done by you? So far we worked out with simple questions, and now we will work out with the WH questions. First, a step-by-step process. See example 1. Why did he bring the book? Here the WH word is why. The subject is he. The auxiliary is did, the main verb is bring, and the object is the book. Now make it an assertive one. Just copy the WH word as it is. So why comes down why. Next comes the subject he. Next comes the verb, that means did plus bring it becomes brought in past tense. Next comes the object, the book. Now make it a passive one. Just copy the WH word why. First bring the object, the book. Next, a be verb in its past form, was. Now the past participle form of the main verb, brought. Now a by, and finally the subject, him. And now the final step, pick the be verb was and put it before the subject, the book. Now the answer is, why was the book brought by him? Now the next example, how did he do it? Here the WH word is how. So make it assertive. Copy the word how, and next comes he did it. Next, make it passive. It was done by him. And finally, make it an interrogative sentence. How was it done by him? Just pick up the auxiliary and put it before the subject. Have a look at the following examples, example 3 and 4. When did you write the letter? So the assertive form is when, in brackets, he wrote the letter, because the sentence was in past. Now its passive is when, in brackets, the letter was written by him. And now the final step, when was the letter written by him? Now the final example, how did you open the door? The assertive form is you opened the door. The passive form is the door was opened by you. And finally, the question form is how was the door opened by you? Note, we need to take special care with the WH words what, who and whom. Now take the examples. First one, what does he want? Here, note here, the WH word what itself is the object. So in assertive it will be he wants what. Now the question sentence is what is wanted by him. Now in the next example, who did it? The answer is by whom was it done. Now note, in case of interrogative sentence starting with who, start the sentence in passive voice with by whom and do the rest following the same rules. Now example 7, whom do you want? Here the answer is who is wanted by you. Note, in case whom, the sentence in passive voice starts with who and then the same rules are followed. Now have a look at the direct process in case of the WH question sentences. Example 1, why did he bring the book? In active voice column, in passive voice column C. In active column, the subject is he, the object is the book, and the verb is did plus bring equals to brought. That means the past form of the main verb. So in the passive column C, the subject becomes the book, the object becomes him, and the verb becomes was brought. So we will place this be verb, this auxiliary verb before the subject, the book. So here, see. First comes the WH word why, next comes the auxiliary was, next comes the subject, the book, next comes the rest of the verb, that means brought, then comes the by, and finally the subject, him. Have a look at the next example. How did he do it? Here in the active voice column C, the subject is he, the object is it, and the verb is did plus do equals to did in past tense. Now in passive, we know the subject is it, the object is him, and the verb becomes was done. So the answer is, how was it done by him? Now take a lot of practice on the interrogative sentences and try to convert them into passive voice following both the methods, the step-by-step process and the direct process as well. Now look here, I have given you so many tasks to practice at home. So work hard. So dear, stay tuned with us, work out hard at home and come out victorious. Good luck.